Hi, this is Anna Imagination with a Healing Garden. I am talking on shifting perspectives. My education is solid rooted in philosophy. That is my primary study. From philosophy, I branched into psychology and I studied sociology parallel to physics and, I'm sorry, philosophy and psychology. The sociology and linguistics, when I pulled that into my studies, partnered beautifully with the ability to communicate, articulation, the evolution of word, the evolution of language and communication, and how psychology has shaped not only the individual, but our society. I call it societal psychology, which is really what sociology is. It's how a people, how a culture interacts psychologically speaking with each other. In addition to that, I noticed that there was a massive embodiment of psychology when you have a group of people together, whether it's a couple, two romantic people, whether it's two friends, a mother, a father, a mother, a child, two coworkers. There's always a societal psychology. And then that expands when you have a family unit, depending upon the size, and all the psychologies basically merge into this one concept. And from there, I saw that body move from the single individual psychology to the couple or the smaller groups of psychology that then expanded to the family unit and then the community, the church, the group, the tribe, the culture. And then from there, it moved with the village and the society and the town, the larger city, the state, and then the country itself and the world. And then it was watching the evolution of time as it moved from late antiquity, early man, the evolution of economy and finance, sales, and how education shaped our world. From there, how extraordinary it was that in 5000 BC, we're looking at pyramids being built. We're looking at ruins in Wales and Great Britain and Scotland where these magnificent stone monoliths were built. And we're looking back at those from our viewpoint, from our societal perspective, looking at them, trying to figure out how people during that time frame could have. There's alien theories out there. There's alien theories out there because we cannot fathom from our perspective how somebody so primitive could have pulled off the architecture that they pulled off. Rather prejudice of us, I think. And from there, I noticed that there was this expanse like this of society. We think time is this, just linear. And I don't see time as being linear. With the amount of psychology and philosophy that I studied, what I see is time, the society doing this. So it went through this massive period of growth and then it shrank and then it grew and then it shrank. So that is what my sociology, psychology, and philosophy study. I have always been drawn to the study of astronomy, but mostly to the study of physics. Now, I did not have any capacity in my brain early on to get into physics. It was something I dabbled in. It was something that every time I passed through physics, I lit up like a Christmas tree and just went, oh my God, I can't wait. I was able to dabble in physics when I studied music theory and mathematics. I flew through geometry. There is a plaque that Plato had, according to legend, that no man who has not studied geometry may enter these walls. And I always thought it was interesting, very, very fascinating to me that a philosopher would demand we study geometry. So, without questioning Mr. Plato, I dove right into mathematics, geometry, And it wasn't until I got to proofs, which actually ties into formal argument and debate, which is a branch of philosophy, that I understood why he demanded geometry, because nothing commands and shapes and structures the brain more beautifully than geometry. Geometry, when you study it, your brain, there's a part of your brain that's just tuned into it. And then I remember when I was in school and I was watching people go, "Why do I have to study this? Why do I need to know this?" Knowledge is not knowing something. Okay, that's not true. There are two types of knowledge. There is knowledge to know something and knowledge to shape something. The reason why we study mathematics is because we are accessing a very particular part of our brain to enhance it. So that once you access that particular part of the brain to enhance it, it allows you to understand and grasp the concepts of other things. And sometimes the best way to shape that particular part of the brain is to feed it mathematics, which is why our children are required to study mathematics, geometry, physics, etc., is because we are trying to tap into a very particular part of the brain that is only accessible when we study mathematics, geometry, physics. It's the same part of the brain that is also connected to philosophy. So if you study geometry, you're also studying the same part of your brain that's linked to logic, debate, formal argument, and philosophy. Likewise, there is a part of your brain that is hardwired to story, learning, theatrics, play, performance, communication, and written word. And that is all in the same part of the brain. So, in order to articulate communication, the best thing you can study is theater. Extraordinary how the brain works. Neuroscience also interests me, but I'll do that after physics. So I took my studies of philosophy as far as I could, and then I began my study in psychology. And I used sociology to tie them both together. And then I used linguistics to perfect, sharpen, and master my communication skills. And then I felt it was time to write a couple of books. So I wrote two epic fantasy novels and my memoir. And then I wrote Zombies from Space and Vampires. One day I will finish that script that Netflix has asked for. And when I was finished with all of that, I took everything I had with psychology and I maxed it out. I took my psychology knowledge as far as I could. And then I discovered and invented perspective psychology. And I maxed that out. And I'm still standing here at the end of it all, and I'm looking at perspective psychology and philosophy. I realized yesterday that there are two types of psychology. Now, I voiced it yesterday. I articulated this yesterday for the first time in a letter. However, it is not the first time. I've had this thought in the back of my head for about 20 years, so I'm just presenting it now here. There are two types of psychology. There is philosophy-based psychology, and there is modern psychology. And I'm going to be the first person to stand up here and say, modern psychology is fucking garbage. It's fucking garbage. The reason why is because modern psychology is only 150 years old and it's based on the random theories of an ignorant idiot, Freud. Now, Freud is the one who made everyone take it seriously, kind of. He's the one who put it on the map. But really, psychology is over 2,000 years old. And it's not new if you study philosophy. The only one who I noticed studied philosophy is Carl Jung. And if you look at the work of Carl Jung and you compare it to Freud, it's apples and oranges. But modern psychology, while you have Jungian psychology, which actually is getting its own name because they're not calling it for what it really is, which is philosophy psychology. My psychology is philosophy based. So Jung and I see eye to eye on a lot of things. I love the work of Carl Jung. There are a couple psychologists who came up who had a background in philosophy, And their psychology is completely different than modern psychology. The psychology that you get when you walk into a therapist's office is modern psychology. It is government funded, it is insurance, government insurance governed, and it is garbage. It is designed to keep you sick, it's guessing, and it's a load of crap. I have wasted a lot of my time with modern psychology. These are the people who say psychology is on par with medicine, and they are declaring it all as fact. And they are rolling out the prescriptions and tampering with brain chemistry and drugs trying to address symptoms. Had they studied philosophy, they would know, first of all, that psychology is a fucking opinion and that you cannot declare opinions as fact. Fact requires one of two things: logical proofs or scientific metric, neither which exist in modern psychology. Carl Jung and my work, and I will definitely credit Dr. Graves for his work in psychology. He definitely has a background in philosophy because there's no way he could have come up with spiral dynamics without it. That he also has a background in philosophical psychology, which teaches us that if you understand formal argument and debate articulately, then you can quite literally prove anything. In fact, Forbes magazine just released an article. I think it was Forbes. It may have been Harvard. I can't remember which of the two. Released an article expressing that a neuroscientist was proven wrong by a philosopher. Philosophy is extraordinary. Philosophy is the ability to logically deduct argument using proofs. In fact, mathematical proofs that we see in geometry and trigonometry are 100% based off of the proofs that we learn in formal argument and debate in philosophy. See how this is all coming together? I am sober right now. I am very sober. And right now I'm standing in my kitchen and I can feel energy dumping off of me. I can feel my whole body vibrating. I feel heat out of the back of my spine just dripping off of my spinal cord. And I manifest. I do a lot with manifestation. I have been playing with manifestation since I was 5 years old. I've been pulling from psychology, philosophy. And whenever I dabble in physics and music, it all comes back to me and I can feel this very, very powerful energy. And I keep going back to physics. I found bioenergetics, which was fascinating to me. I glanced at a couple worksheets and went, oh, holy shit, that is where I need to be. And I'm finally at that point in my life where I say, it is time. It is this massive, profound, my psychology studies have been complete. I have invented perspective psychology. I am calling the psychology field two different things: philosophy psychology, philosophical psychology, and modern psychology. I am completely slandering and throwing out 99% of the garbage that's been called modern psychology, because the way they handle and discuss emotions is crap. The way they handle diagnosis is garbage. And the way they dole out diagnosis and cures, symptoms, therapies is crap. Cognitive behavioral therapy is absolutely credible. Dialectical behavioral therapy is amusing to me because dialectical behavioral therapy is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a kind of meditation, and philosophy's logical or formal logical argument and debate. So when I studied dialectical behavioral therapy, I went, this is just philosophy and psychology and cognitive behavioral therapy. This is the way it's supposed to be. Why is it so rare? Because psychologists don't study philosophy. I don't know why. To me, it's the most obvious thing in the world. Here's the funny part. This is my favorite part about psychology. When you go into a therapist's office, you get some kid who's probably got 4 years of therapy, 4 years of psychology, modern psychology, and zero philosophy skills. Philosophy teaches you how to communicate, how to identify fallacy and how to persuade and direct a conversation. Remember when I said a couple minutes ago that psychology is 2,000 years old? 2,000 years ago, we called it the psychological study of sales and marketing. That's where it came from. It's when we created economics. And people realized that if you use the power of word and persuasion, sales, you can get people to buy shit. 2,000 years ago, they figured this out in philosophy. That's where psychology comes from. The art of selling people something, the art of persuasion, that is philosophy and psychology. And they did this for 2,000 years until Freud came along. He decided to do his own thing. Everyone went, oh my God, this is amazing. And they completely ignored all the philosophy. So now you have this massive field of study called modern psychology without any philosophical basis to it. They are reinvented the wheel from scratch. So a philosophy psychologist will look at that and go, wow, you guys have a circle and you're calling it a wheel. That's cute. That's the difference between philosophy psychology and modern psychology. Big, big difference. So I have no tolerance or patience for modern psychology. It's to the point where whenever I step into it to try and find a little answer to a question I have, it irritates me, annoys me, gets in my way, distracts, it's garbage. I throw it away and I just do it properly with philosophy. So, yeah, it's my life work to take down modern psychology and replace it with philosophical psychology and Jungian philosophy because that works. So, that being said, I am now pulling in physics because there is something I know it. I can feel it. I feel it. It is psychological physics. You see, according to modern psychology, emotions are, you've got 9 emotions and then they expand and they're tertiary and they evolve like Pokemon. No, no. Instead, it's on a spectrum. And there is a negative charge and a positive charge. Now we're getting into physics. And we've proven this in the brain and neuroscience. We've proven this in the world of physics, that emotions produce positive and negative charges, which means they are polar opposites, which means that there is a neutral point of balance. So that when you have 2 emotions together, pulling off of each other, literally like a magnet pulling, so that they are balancing out the positive and the negative charge to create a neutral charge. You see why I'm now studying physics. This is the difference between somebody who's optimistic. Okay, this is my positive side, optimistic, versus somebody who's pessimistic. This is what we seek. This is what we need. This is what we do. So I found this course online. Absolutely extraordinary. It's a full Khan Academy. Khan, how appropriate. Khan Academy. And I've started it. Excuse me. I've started it and I'm basically starting to fill in the holes because I'm at the 8th stage of perspectives and I'm maxed out. I've maxed out my psychology studies. I have maxed out my philosophy. And now I'm going, there's more out there. And the only way I can go forward from here is with physics. So I'm now studying physics. And I suddenly have this massive fuzzy warmth inside of me. Thank you, compliments of my identity, going, I want to be a physicist. So we're going to be a physicist now. And I'm going to exhaust the area of physics as much as I can. Because I am certain, I know psychology, philosophical psychology is linked to physics. I know it. I can feel it. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to present my theories and my concepts into shifting perspectives. I'm going to introduce philosophy, psychology, and physics and show you how physics and psychology are all linked with philosophy and how our emotions produce a physical energy charge based off of positive and negative energy, which creates and feeds the energy pool. That's what I'm going to do. And as I learn from my physics lessons, I'm going to just go on these hypotheses of, isn't this interesting? This is what I learned in physics today. And while I'm doing this with physics, this is how it feeds psychology. And I can see where this is linked to sociology and philosophy. This is fascinating. That I have these theories and these concepts prior to studying physics. And now I'm starting this journey and I'm very excited. So this is going to become like a documentary, a live documentary of me telling you what I find and what I hypothesize along the way. And that I'm walking into this with this extraordinary basis in philosophy and psychology. And I'm going, why has this never been done before? Like, why has no one studied this? Is there anyone else out there? And I would love to talk to them. Oh my God, it is my dream to talk to these people. Where give me somebody who has mastered philosophy, mastered psychology, and mastered physics. Those are my people. Those are my people. And I'm just standing here and I can feel energy just dumping off of my hands. I can feel it just vibrating off of my body right now. And I want to know why. I want to understand why my body produces so much heat when I think. And I there's no other way for it. When I get into this level, when I think like this, I feel heat literally pouring out of my brain, out of my spinal cord, out of my hands, right along here. And it's just, it's just so much heat. And it's always when I learn and when I think and when I hypothesize. And it's getting stronger. And the answer is in physics. The answer is related to psychology and philosophy. I don't know what this is. I used to be scared of it. That's one of the reasons why I got an MRI, is because I wanted to see if it was hurting my brain. It's not hurting my brain. It is not hurting my brain. I have a clean, gorgeous brain. So I know it's safe for me to proceed now. I'm completely confident, secure, and able to embrace this. So this is my learning journey. That's what perspective thinking is. It is my learning journey. And I'm just documenting my perspective as I discover it, as I learn this. And it's just, I want to take my words and use them to show you this is what I see in life. This is how I view the world. And I feel like there's this power, and power is just energy. That's the other thing. Power is just energy. I realized this morning. I was sitting there just vibrating, going, power is just energy. So we're all going, I want power. Well, that's just energy. And you can't, it's this relationship. It's a relationship with energy. That's what power is. It's a relationship. And that, to understand relationship, you have to study psychology. Isn't that interesting? That in physics, we talk about the relationships of the world between point A and point B, but that's psychology. See, this is the kind of shit you don't know unless you study philosophical psychology, but we're not taught it. So I'm just looking at it going, okay, if you're wanting to talk to me about relationships, you need to understand what psychology is, because psychology is, I will give you my definition of psychology. Psychology is the study of the self and the relationship of the self with others. That is psychology. It is the study of the self and how our relationships are with others. So if you want to talk to me about relationships and you're talking about how two things are related, that's all psychology. So I'm looking at this, and that's just it, is I'm going to study to be a physicist as a psychologist. This is so fascinating to me. And I see psychology as a philosophy. It is a philosophy. It is a branch of philosophy. The only reason why I even found psychology is because of Carl Jung, because I was studying philosophy and Carl Jung's name pop up and I went, this guy's onto something. This guy knows shit. Carl Jung is extraordinary. It was his work in religion that made me go, now that's something different. Now he's figured shit out. But you have to study philosophy and psychology to figure shit out. Otherwise, you're not internalizing it. And that is the difference. Modern psychology just regurgitates shit that they don't understand. They haven't internalized it. You have to internalize psychology to understand it. That's the difference. You don't become a master of something until you've internalized it. I think I was talking to my son about this yesterday. Yes, it was my son. He was asking me questions about if I ever have to go back on my notes and research and remember. And I said no, because I've internalized it. It's internal. It's the people who have to sit down and read because they don't understand it. When you have to constantly go back on a book and reread it and look it up because you can't remember the answer, you're just copying somebody else. It's not a part of you. You actually lack understanding. Because when you understand it, you don't need a book, you don't need a script, you don't need a lesson plan. You can improv. That's the difference. Oh, Robin Williams understood that. That is why Robin Williams was so good. That gorgeous, beautiful fucking man. Because he internalized humor. He internalized it. You want to know the difference between a master and a student? The master comprehends it on such a depth that it's a part of who they are. They stand there and they just know, because their entire DNA and chemical makeup revolves around what they know. They don't need to consult somebody else's books. They just know because it's internalized. I remember this one day I was at the doctor's office and I was talking to my doctor, and then I went to the bathroom while she was in her office, and I caught her sitting at her desk with a book, researching my question. And I asked her, how often do you do that? And she said, every day, in between patients, I have to look up the answers. And I started asking around. A doctor of medicine who has mastered his profession doesn't need to do that. A doctor who is just copycatting because they're followers has to do that. That's the difference. And that's when I went, oh, that's the difference between a master and a student. They haven't internalized it. It isn't committing it to memory. And that's the problem. That's the myth. That's the issue. If you're seeking to commit something to memory, nah, there's memory and then there's internalization. And when you internalize it, you become it. My entire DNA makeup at this point is so interwoven with philosophy and psychology that if it were to be taken away from me, I would cease to exist. That's how deep a master is. That's where it goes. So I can just feel and intuitive it, be intuitive. It's just there. And it feels right because the knowledge is so internal. It's extraordinary. And I'm very excited about this next journey that I have, because I cannot explain to you how excited I am that I could just walk into this and be like, I'm going to study physics as a psychologist. Oh, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. And I think it's the reason why I do the podcasting is because it would be lonely. It would be lonely. But I've learned psychology that loneliness is a lack of human connection. It's when we share. That's all loneliness is. It is a lack of sharing. So by doing these podcasts, I open up my heart. I invite you in. And now I am showing you what the inside of my mind looks and feels like. So I don't feel alone anymore. And you're connecting with me. Now that's my warm and fuzzy place. That's my happiness. So that's why I podcast. That's why I started this. It's so I wouldn't be alone in this journey. So I think that's all I have to say on this. I am very excited to learn more. And then I know me. When I study, I get excited and then I jump back into it. And I'm like, oh my God, what I just learned, you guys got to hear this. And that's what you're going to see a lot of me doing now, is from that point to this point of physics. And I know I'm going to have to pull out my math books and start going back to trig and geometry and continue my mathematical studies. So I'll be doing that also. I'm so excited. Like mathematics, Oh, mathematics is my warm, happy, fuzzy place. I am just so excited to get back into math and physics. I'm just so excited about it. I am so excited to finally be at a point where I can finally, okay, now that I've internalized psychology and philosophy, I'm going to put that over there. And now I'm going to just revel in education again. And I'm going to expand on it. And now I'm going to dabble in the art of psychology or I'm sorry, dabble in the art of physics and mathematics. I'm going to learn this energy that I manifest with because it is absolutely related to physics. I know it is. I can feel it. I can sense it. I can see it. I just don't see the path stones that go from point A to point B. And that's why you study physics, is so you can see the path stones between point A and point B. I want to know the path stones. I want to be able to sit down and say, so when you have a psychological thought and you're thinking about love, what's really happening in your brain is you are dumping out X amount of positive emotion. And when you have that kind of a polarity, you are attracting the energy pool, which is drawing you in, which makes you magnetic. I think this is an hypothesis. I know when I study physics, I'll be able to prove it, which I'm going to need for where I'm going because I see where I'm going to be. And I see myself at the end. And I'm going, ooh, if I want to pull that off, I'm going to need physics, mathematics, and, well, I have the philosophy and the psychology. So one day I will show you my physics books. It's gorgeous, or my philosophy book. My philosophy book is this thick, and it is the Cambridge Dictionary or the Cambridge Encyclopedia of Philosophy. And it is like this big. It's a huge yellow text. I love it to pieces. And I am still just standing here dripping heat and energy. And I'm going, why am I dumping heat? And I just need to understand the why. So this is the next stage of my journey. And I am warmly inviting you to join me. If you are interested in my work, if you are interested in studying more about philosophy, psychology, if you want to jump into my uber epic healing program, which is triadic healing that uses perspective thinking and perspective psychology, take a look over at my website. That's annahealinggarden.org, www.annashealinggarden.org. And there's a quiz. You can go ahead and take the quiz, and then it will launch into this whole awesome thing. And you'll be able to take the quiz, figure out your placement, figure out if you want to do triadic healing, if that's for you or not. So thank you so much for joining me, and may the kindest of words always find you.